Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden are responsible for the uprising against him. In a phone interview on state television, the Libyan leader addressed the people of AlJazeera, just west of the capital. Well, there's been heavy fighting there between opposition forces and Gaddafi loyalists. There have also been more resignations by members of Gaddafi's government. Libya's ambassador to Jordan, the latest diplomat to quit in protest over the violence. Gaddafi's opponents, strong in the east, now report gains in the west. Police and soldiers reportedly deserting Gaddafi's regime in the town of Zawara. Lawrence Lee has more.
The latest town to experience heavy fighting isn't very far from Tripoli, and that perhaps explains why protesters from AlJazeera have told AlJazeera that the army came to the town and opened fire on them with heavy artillery, their hunting rifles no match. Witnesses said at least 100 were killed, and they expected the army to return after dark.
We asked them to stop all their fires, but they didn't reply. The shooting was direct to the people. They shot the people in the head and in the chest, direct. So they were trying to kill the people, not terrifying them.
If that's one version of events, the other came from Gaddafi himself. He turned up by telephone on Libyan television with a message to AlJazeera. He said the town had been infiltrated by Al-Qaeda, bin Laden, drugs and madness.
The demands come from bin Laden. You AlJazeera people are substituting the popular and Jamahiriya system with bin Laden. Bin Laden cells have been operating here for months. His operatives are provoking and brainwashing your children, inciting them to launch attacks. The enemy perpetrating the killings of our children, operating from mosques or elsewhere. Bin Laden and his operatives are providing your children with hallucination pills. Those are the true perpetrators. Arrest them and bring them to court.
The Gaddafis are certainly not short of opinions on what's happening in their country. While his father was blaming Al-Qaeda and drugs for the revolts, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi once again accusing the outside media of invention and lies.
We have to understand that the conspiracy against us is not coming from Libyans. It is coming from our Arab brothers. They have used their media to spread lies and deception. Tomorrow, all media is coming and they will film everything. There is also an investigation committee, which includes foreigners. You will discover that we were deceived. You will find that this was the biggest lie to Libyans in our history.
As well as all these observations from the Gaddafis, Libyan TV has been showing other pictures aimed at putting the fear into the opposition. It isn't clear whether these men are alive or dead, though at least one is still moving. There was a message as well: give all your weapons in and we won't harm you. It's unlikely to be believed by the protesters. It's hardly surprising the government wants the opposition to agree to a weapons amnesty. These images from Misrata in the west, said to be the scene of new fighting after falling to the opposition, suggest the uprising has as many heavy weapons as the army. During his latest address, Gaddafi offered the opinion that Libya's tribal leaders, some of whom have been meeting in Al-Baida, should be taking more responsibility for local government and controlling their young people, though here they said they were more interested in the United Nations coming to save them. Gaddafi said he himself had become more of a symbolic leader of Libya.
As the Arab proverb says, if you carry a leaking water bag, it will make your back wet, and it is your responsibility. It is none of my concern anymore.
This was an address different in tone and content to his speech of Tuesday night. Wishful thinkers might hope it sounded almost valedictory. Or perhaps in arguing that he isn't really leader and therefore isn't in charge, it was simply a denial of responsibility.
May peace be on AlJazeera and its people.
Lawrence Lee, AlJazeera.
Well, tribal leaders in eastern Libya have been meeting to denounce the government in Tripoli. Among them were military commanders who have refused Gaddafi's orders to open fire on protesters. Security in the east of the country is believed to be largely in civilian hands. Tribal elders and army deserters say they're forming a new future for Libya. Well, meanwhile, civilians in several cities in the east have been showing off some of the military hardware they've taken from government forces. One such city is Shahat, a region with a long history of resistance. Dan Noland reports.
Sitting atop seized army tanks, firing automatic weapons. these men are celebrating a war that hasn't yet been won. Like most of Libya's eastern cities, Shahat is now controlled by the people. Some are giddy with their newfound freedom, joyriding in tanks that once belonged to Muammar Gaddafi's regime.
These are ruins from the previous terrorist regime. This is what Gaddafi used to kill our children.
Shahat is in a province of Libya called Green Mountain, famous for its resistance led by Omar al-Mukhtar against Italian occupation a century ago. Media reports now emerging from Shahat and nearby Al-Baida say peaceful protests on February 17 were met with live fire from Gaddafi's troops. Sympathetic soldiers are said to have opened up military warehouses to help civilians defend themselves, creating a new chapter in Green Mountain's history of resistance. Further east in Tobruk, video from the local airport shows the intensity of battles that raged here. Hundreds of bullet casings lie on the ground, while inside, blood-stained floors show a passenger terminal that became a war zone.
Thank God we won. They had weapons, but we had stones. God helped and we won. All Arabs must do something to stop this Goliath. Where is the United Nations?
Another tank sits on the Tobruk airport runway, an apparent attempt to stop Colonel Gaddafi sending more forces in to take up a fight that in the east of Libya he appears to be losing. Dan Nolan, AlJazeera.
Libya's ambassador to Jordan has resigned in protest over the killing of his countryman. Mohammed al-Barghouthi is the latest of several diplomats and politicians who've stepped down or voiced their opposition to the violent crackdown.
Our great people, at this difficult moment that our nation faces, people are dying in a bloody confrontation. It is unimaginable and unbelievable.
Well, I'm joined again by Yusuf Muandal, a professor of international affairs at Qatar University here in Doha. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's start with that statement, I think we can call it, by Muammar al-Gaddafi calling into the national television. A little bit different this time, wasn't it? He didn't use some of the very fiery words that we heard in the first speech.
I think the first speech was very threatening, and he said that he will wage an all-out war against his own people. But in the second one, he seems to tone down his voice, and he's more conciliatory in the sense that whatever you want to do, I will accept it as long as you keep me as a figurehead. So he gave more concessions in the second speech as opposed to the first one.
So a bit more broken, and particularly when you take into account that he didn't actually appear, did he?
Well, he didn't appear, and that's what led so many observers, including myself, to think that it's not him on that voice. But the bottom line is that he realized that he was trying to wage a losing battle, and his days in office are numbered, and he was trying to find an honorable way out.
Nevertheless, there was no offer for him to sort of step down or get out of the way. He still looks like he's committed to fight this to the end.
Well, he wouldn't offer that, and I understand that the permanent representative of Libya in the United Nations suggested that Muammar al-Gaddafi may step down, but this is highly unlikely because he believes that he is Libya and Libya owes him so much. He would never step down.
Security Council's